And Joanne too.
Joanne told him that Alex could be his. That's my understanding. And I don't know if she did or she didn't.
Pam told me when I talked to her that Adam always wanted a ready-made family.
Yeah.
And they were it.
That was it. Because I'm just glad he wasn't the father of any of them. I'm glad.
He might have been.
They said that DNA,
Well, you mean of Adrian.
no, of Alex. All I've heard is he wasn't the daddy of none of
Yeah,
them.
my understanding is DNA cleared all three of them.
Okay. It's hard to think that your son did such a devilish thing.
But you know, he changed so much. But whenever, I thought he was gonna help them move back to Arizona because he did 3 or 4 times. Out there and back, out there and back.
Talking about Gary and Joanne and the 3 girls.
They'd move out there and then they'd move back.
Tell me about Joanne. Was she like a daughter to you?
Mm. Whenever I first met Joanne was in 1975 or 77, something like, no, 85. And Adrian, first time I ever seen her, she was about 15 months old. She was about this, with the biggest cotton head of hair you've ever seen in your life.
How did you first meet? How did Joanne Bain come into your life?
Adam was friends with her first husband, Mark Johnson. And her and Mark were having problems. And he asked if she wanted to come up there and stay till they worked them out. Well, I guess that was when they were.
That was it? And that was in the 70s?
80s. I don't know, like I said.
Okay.
I
Do you
can't
know how long she stayed?
About 3 weeks.
With Mark Johnson. And Mark is Joanne or Adrian is Mark and Joanne's daughter.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because Kylea was Gary's.
But Alex and we assume that Alex and Adrian are Mark's daughters with Joanne.
Well, I tried to tell Adam, I seen pictures of Alex when she was about 15 months old. She was spitting image of him.
Mark Johnson.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't, and I don't see, Adam was going by this little thing, her toes were long like his. She didn't like the same foods he didn't like.
So he had things he pinpointed and said that's why she's mine.
Yeah,
Adam.
Adam.
He was obsessed, wasn't he? Do you think Adam and Alex, there was ever any sexual?
I don't know. I don't
Do you
know,
think-
and I can't say.
Do you think
What?
Adam ever had sex with Adrian or Joanne?
Not that I know of. Well, he had to have had it with Joanne if he thought, and she thought Alex could be his. But I don't know. I found out I didn't know Adam at all. And I've tried to figure it out. And my counselor says, don't try to figure it out because you couldn't do nothing. And
Now you're in prison. Teresa, what about Teresa Mays? You know her.
mm-hmm. Well, I know. She was afraid of him, but it wasn't the same kind of afraid of him that I was. He'd hit me every once in a while, but he would beat on her. Alex and them would get the Nerf baseball bat, and he would let them hit on Teresa with it. And Alex broke it on her. And you know, it's got metal in the inside of it.
So he pretty well taught him how to hit on her.
And Pam told me when I interviewed her last year, she said, you know, there were times when her brother, Adam, would lock you in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And your husband too, for days.
I told him, I said, I didn't understand him. I still don't understand him.
He locked you in the bathroom. Well, here you are. You're in jail. You're in prison. for what your son did. Would you rather been dead?
No, sir, because God did, wasn't in God's plan for me to be dead. Apparently, I've got, this is what everybody's telling me is me time, because I was always identified as Adam's mother. I never was Mary. I was always Adam's mother. And I've asked him, I said, well, I don't know how to be nobody but his mother. I mean, and my lawyers, Terry Dykes and Melissa Williams, told me that this is me time. I'm learning to be me. I'm getting a GED if Mr. Bishop don't give up on me. I hate math. I've always hated math.
So it's really hard to comprehend from someone on the other side, but you're actually getting to live your life in jail.
That's it. I'm living, I don't have to be afraid. And the people here, and even Hardeman County Jail, there was so many ladies and girls come and they still write me that I was an inspiration to them, that if they could, I could get out of that kind of a situation, they could do it. And I believe they can. Just because I was afraid. I know it sounds funny to be afraid of your son, but I was afraid of him.
There are a lot of women who are, though.
You were charged with especially aggravated kidnapping, and you,
I mean, I don't understand it. I mean,
just because you drove Adam to the church where he,
no, whenever the girls were over at the trailer he had in Pontotoc, he had them over there. And whenever he got ready, I don't know what his thing was. He came to the house and said, "Go get them." Now he put his old toolbox on his little red truck, and he put a blanket in there, and I couldn't figure out why. But he says, "You go get them. Don't stop nowhere between here and there, and don't make no phone calls." So I went over there and I knocked on the door, and they came to the door. There wasn't no water. There wasn't no electricity. And I said, "Alex says Adam that says you know what to do." And they said, "Yes, ma'am." They got in the toolbox, let the lid down, and I didn't stop between where they were at. They said, "Well, why didn't you take him to the police?" I didn't know that Johnny wasn't going to be dead whenever I got to the house. I mean...
and you didn't know Joanne and Adrian were dead in your backyard either.
No, I didn't.
This was after he killed them
Yeah.
and buried them. He came back in your house, and meanwhile he said, "Mom, go get the other two."
Yeah.
And he had already taken them. He planned it. He'd
He
taken
had.
them to his trailer in Pontotoc.
He had another identity. He had his other identity all mapped out. He was going to be Christoph Wilson or Williams, something like that. That's all I can remember it.
So he planned on creating a whole new identity for himself. And then he killed himself.
I'm just glad that Alex and Kylia are all right. I pray that they can get over it. But it had to be tough. It had to be.
So they were transported in, what, a toolbox?
You carried them in Adam's truck.
Yeah.
You put those girls in a toolbox.
I told them, I said, Adam said, "Y'all know what to do." They said, "Yes, ma'am." They got on the truck, got in the I wanted them to get inside because I was taking them where he was at. So why would they get in a toolbox? And he told me, he said, "Don't you stop nowhere between." He said, "You're being followed." And I don't know that it was, I wasn't followed
But he stayed with your husband.
with the gun.
With the
He
gun.
had that gun.
At your house, at your trailer in Union County.
Mhm.
And then, when you got the girls back, what happened?
That's when he had some kind of like a duffel bag. And he had stuff in it, and he threw it on the back of the truck. And he told them, said, "Mama, let's go, Tony, let's go." I said, "Where?" He said, "You drive and I'll tell you where to go."
Were the girls with you?
They were still in the toolbox.
And where did you go?
On Zion Hill Church Road. That's where a lot of his friends hung out. And it's just,
And then what? You got to the church?
that's just a dirt road. It's where all the guys go drinking and four-wheeling.
What did you do?
I took him, he said, "Pull over here."
You were driving his truck.
His truck. It's the first time he'd ever let me drive the truck. And whenever I went to pick the girl, that's the first time I'd ever had any of the kids by myself in the car.
And they were in the toolbox.
Yeah.
So you parked the car on the dirt road?
I pulled over, he says, "Don't get out." He tapped on the toolbox and Alex and Kayla jumped out and took off. And he said, I asked him, I said, "Adam, I felt so weird because the way he was really acting." And I told him, I said, "If something's bothering you, let me know." And he said, "It's just a need to know, Mama."
And then what?
I got in the truck and I had a doctor's appointment.
This was during the day?
Early in the morning, I had,
And you just left Adam and the girls in the woods?
yeah, I thought maybe they were doing like they usually do. They'd get to the house and then they'd go all over the place.
And then he killed himself in front of them.
They said he was on the ground. And the girls got down and the police told the girls to hit the dirt. And
Wow.
then he killed himself. Why? I lost my son, I lost Adrian, I lost Joanne, I lost my family, my whole family.
Because they were pretty well like family. You hadn't seen your kids. They were pretty well like your children.
Exactly. I just couldn't understand.
You were a prisoner in your own home.
Yes, sir. I went, like I told you, I got the first night's sleep in jail that I'd had in years.
You say you've forgiven Adam and you won't forget it. What would you say to him if he were sitting right here today?
I don't know. I don't know. Because I've tried to think of what I could have said. If I had been over there, what could I have said? The police said, "If you'd have been over there, he would have shot you." That's what they told me.
What would you tell your little June bug?
That I miss her and I love her. I love the other two, but Junebug was mine. She was my favorite. I loved her.
Did he know she was your favorite?
Yeah.
Adrian. Alex was his.
Alex was his. And he was teaching Kylea to be just, I think he would want them to be, because they would tell Gary and him that they were one place when they wasn't. They'd be supposed to be at the house, and they'd be at the mall, or,
What about Gary Bain?
well, he used to be my son-in-law.
Well, he was married to Pam.
Mm-hmm.
Is he all right?
As far as I know, he is, but I can't, because I didn't have any contact.
You don't know anything about him, or you hadn't seen him in
Years,
since
about 2
he.
years.
Well, I mean,
With the girls. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know, you don't even know, you wouldn't even know what to speak about him.
No, I wouldn't.